There he is.
Hello. Apologies.
Hello.
How
How's
are
the
you
cat
guys?
doing?
All right. I think the concern,
Okay-ish.
yeah, is
It's
fine.
hanging on.
Well, let's jump into it. Am I interrupting anything?
Massively, man. Massively interrupting. Go ahead, man. Go screen share all that stuff. Go for it. Go have it.
Cool. Well, yeah. So I see that the latest PR got merged. So it sounds like we're slowly entering the home stretch of what might be the checkout stuff.
Yes, exactly. And I opened up an issue with all the remaining stuff and where everyone can dump his thoughts and feedback for now. But today, I don't think that we have anything to talk about in terms of checkout v2, at least from my side, because I have to incorporate the feedback that's already there, and then we can talk about the then current state in 2 weeks. I don't think that, or at least today, I can't present anything new because nothing in terms of checkout v2 has happened during that time.
That sounds good. Yeah, no worries. I think one of the things basically sent you mocks for some of the stuff with regard to the partial payments and the expiration. But the one thing that I'm still sitting here thinking on is the multiple payment methods, and I think that that's the main thing. I think because everything else. Thanks for throwing up that issue with everything and all the remaining feedback. And I think Pav's feedback is pretty much in line with, I think, where you and I know we need to go with certain things. And I'll also probably toss up a bunch of little visual nits and other things like that. It'll probably be a really long list. Just be warned.
Yeah, if you have mocks or something for the payment method stuff, I'd appreciate it. But so we could talk about it today. But other than that, I don't think there's anything I would need to progress.
Okay, let me see. I just started pulling these. I'm not fully finished with exploring everything that we could do, but still poking around with what we know. I think one of the challenges, so I guess one of the things to think about here, and maybe that's something that we could discuss as a potential, just to get everyone's thoughts on that, and kind of give context about where we're coming from. So it's like, obviously we have the, custom forms and metadata and all that kind of stuff. And then the next one, as we had discussed, and Dennis and I kind of made the decision that this felt unintuitive to have it be like a step in between when you generate a QR or any other kind of, information that's specific to the asset itself. So then the other question really becomes, it's like, okay, well, how many other ways can we incorporate this kind of thing while also trying to maintain, the ability to keep the QR code above the fold or have it not be pushed too far down in the view? And obviously, from a hierarchical perspective, it's like, you have your store, you have the reason for the invoice, you have the payment method itself, the details of it, and then, the payment method, which, we could arguably change some of the order of these things around. And this looks bad because it's an old component. I haven't started trying to style it and figure out how, I want this to work with everything else. I'm just kind of taking things and thinking about, like, structurally speaking, like, would it be something that we, that pushes down everything and then you just scroll and select it? Is it something that we do kind of like a more of a modal style? Because I think at the end of the day, the challenge that we have with the current experience is that, like, it's very hard to find this little button or this change. Whether this is a button itself, maybe we stick with like some of the pill tabs and stuff that we currently have. We have quite a few options, and that's one thing I want to keep exploring. So yeah, I definitely owe you that mock, Dennis, and I will. I'll keep tossing up some of these things so that we're not spending time, wasting cycles for you doing this, and trying to figure out what works on the dev side of things. But I still think the challenge with any of these I think inevitably, and we have to support it, but it's the thing that we've kind of talked about numerous times, where it's like, regardless of whether it's an expanded accordion, whether it's an overlay, whether it's any of these things, is the reality after you hit this, this is going to, the QR section is going to potentially change, and like, maybe we're not going to be able to keep it as like simple as pay and wallet and all that. And, those things are simple enough. Obviously it's like, if this, then else, if this payment, then do this. But I think that that's one of the things where I guess that was always going to be kind of an issue, regardless of whether we broke this into a separate step as opposed to it being on this page. But I guess at the end of the day, I think that's one of the things, and it might require us trying to figure out all of the cases for this kind of thing. Because it's like, obviously we're not trying to support, fucking Litecoin or whatever type of thing people are paying with. But it would suck if, like, okay, we support this or that flexibility here in addition to, the BIP21 stuff. And then, it's a really shitty experience because there are a bunch of just buttons that get dumped down to the bottom or any kind of stuff. So, if there are things that we can do to potentially look at the full scope of what we've done with the current experience, and figuring out how, I guess, what's the best way to put it? Like how we can try to encapsulate that in this new one so that we run into less issues over time, potentially. But I'll, rambling a bit, I'll pause to get thoughts on things. But basically, whatever it should be is, a very clear CTA of how to change that. And then whether it's accordion, overlay, there could be all sorts of other things that we potentially do as well. But I think, it sounds like this is kind of where we're all leaning towards, and what seems like is still probably the best experience, but obvious downsides are that it pushes the QR down, even if I tighten this area up a little bit more and all that other kind of stuff. But yeah, I'll pause for a minute.
So what I really like about the current implementation with the pills is that it's immediately obvious what you can pay with in terms of Bitcoin. And this would solve the actual problems of people not discovering that they are able to pay with Bitcoin or Lightning. And so in general, for the Bitcoin only build, this only matters in case the BIP21 checkbox isn't set. And in that case, we display those two payment methods. And for me, that would work for the Bitcoin only build, because as I said, it's very obvious what's going on. You don't need to open a drawer or a modal to change the payment method. And I'd be good with that. And
I
in
agree.
addition, and
It's quick.
in addition to that, I don't think, as you said, we should care that much about those other payment methods. And I'd be fine with a simple solution, like when you're running the altcoin build and there are, for example, also Dash and Monero available, then we can have a third pill next to Bitcoin and Lightning, which says other, and this opens up a modal or whatever.
Interesting. Okay.
I know it's not the most brilliant or nice solution, but for me this would work, and we could keep on iterating if too many people oppose this and don't like it. But for a first shot, I'd be completely fine with that.
Yeah, I mean, I think I could see it working because it's not that fundamentally different. Whether like, let's assume we go with the the right side, where it's like you have this drop down or modal overlay type of thing. It would be similar to how we would handle language and everything as well. So we could reuse components there and try to make that consistent and feel consistent. Yeah, I mean, I could see that working. I'm not necessarily opposed to that, because I do like how, I guess, minimal the pills are in relation. And like you said, BIP21 will not have them at all. Bitcoin only would only have those two options. And then the third, altcoin build would have, yeah, I suppose we could do other. There's always that, yeah. Others a little bit strange, and I guess we could collect feedback, because this would really be the only reason that I could see pushing that away. But I guess to your point with, like, if it's Bitcoin only, it's like having the ability to quickly tab between Lightning and or on chain would be really important. Okay, that gives me some more to think about. I'm glad I asked. So yeah, that's probably in my mind when I look at all this, like the only really big remaining open question, and everything else, yeah, like it'll just be, pushing pixels around and trying to make sure things look cleaned up and, are smooth and browser tested and all that other kind of stuff. But like I said, I'll keep adding to that issue that you opened up, Dennis.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I think there was that issue that was opened, that I'm trying to remember. I have to pull it up.
I think it was a discussion item where someone brought up that it would be good to see the payment details on the results page so that you can see the details about partial payments which have been made.
Yep, that's it.
And
which I think makes total sense to do that.
Yeah, let me incorporate all of that feedback. It's not that I need something from you to do that. And once it's done, we can fine tune it in the browser and discuss it then.
Yeah, I didn't think so. Just wanted to make sure that we were all on the same page, that we agreed that was the case. I mean, you and I agreed, but I wasn't sure if other people felt strongly about it or not.
Yeah, I'll come up with the best effort solution and then we can discuss and fine tune it.
Cool. Oh, another good question too is like, if there's no logo, like defaulting to BTCPay. I think that makes sense, as opposed to just keeping it blank or having nothing there. Because it's like, yeah, you could do BTCPay and then have the store name potentially underneath it. We could just do the B or something like that.
I chose to not display anything then and just have the store name, because it would feel kind of weird that our logo would appear above the custom store name.
I guess I could see that too. Yeah. Is that so?
I think I know where that question came from. This Bitcoin bonus scam also used our logo as a default in their invoices, and that led all those victims to our chat. So maybe we don't want to be associated with every merchant.
Okay, all right. I'm glad. I can't believe this has happened before. Okay, well then, yeah, never mind. I would tend to agree that we probably should push back on that a little bit if that's the case, because you're right, that could create confusion for people that assumes that like it's anyway correlated with us, and we probably shouldn't make that at all not obvious, that we have nothing to do with some store or some other entity that's charging you for something.
Yeah, even we discussed this in terms with the powered by BTCPay subline, which was at the bottom, and I turned that down a bit too, so that we don't get the support questions from people which think BTCPay is the company that's selling that stuff.
Yeah, I think that's probably a smart move, and knowing that people literally had that issue and they just ended up going to our chat and complaining, we probably shouldn't allow that kind of thing to happen, or do what we can to prevent that, or people trying to scam. Okay, well then, cool. That's the only other one that I saw that I was a little bit, that made me think like we should probably talk about this kind of thing. And the one other thing too that I noticed that you had written down, Dennis, was the improving the cheating capabilities, like expiring invoices and lightning payments. What do you mean by that?
So in the dev environment, you have a few cheating capabilities underneath the checkout form.
I see. Okay.
It's not visible in production, but for testing purposes, you can choose which amount to pay for the invoice. And right now, it just supports on-chain, and I'd like to add Lightning there as well as you can mine blocks, you can expire the invoice, and so on.
No, okay. I just didn't understand what the cheating capabilities thing, but that all makes total sense. And yeah, that's actually,
please add the Lightning thing. Please do it.
Yeah. It'll come. In due course, it'll come.
Soon. Let's see. Yeah, I think that's it. Otherwise, on my end for anything, so I was a little bit confused about. But yeah, all that makes sense. And I can also try to help whenever I move past all these other things. Style some of the things and see if we can't figure out how to make the cheat mode, cheat code activated better. Yeah, I don't know. I guess it sounds like we could talk about some of the stuff that Pav had mentioned as well, and figuring out a strategy for doing some of that as well. There's also some of the website stuff. If there's any other additional things that that you need from me, Dennis, I know that there's design work that needs to be done on that side of things.
Did you see my PR about customizing the instance logo?
I did. I mean, I have no qualms about doing that at all. But I haven't fully tested it. So
yeah, okay. Yeah, I think that's the only thing left right now in terms of design we could talk about. Other than that, what's up? I spent most of of the last week fixing bugs, and this morning I talked to Pav, and he said we could also chat a bit about the designathon work, which has been done on the redesign or the potential redesign of the BTCPay directory. I don't know whether or not you have already seen this. I posted it on the UI UX channel.
Yeah, I started watching some of it, but I haven't made it all the way through the whole thing. But I liked what I had seen.
Also, hi, Pav.
Hey, there he is.
I just love listening when you guys talk about me like I'm not there.
Yeah.
Yeah, but for a designathon, I can maybe give a quick summary. So they had like a designathon, which was a competition organized where people could apply and do all sorts of different projects that were selected. BTCPay Server was one of them. And sorry, I'm just checking if my mic is okay. Okay, it is. Because Bas usually complains about my microphone. So anyway, so they tried to redesign the BTCPay server directory without any guidance, because I was swamped and we had nobody to guide them. So it was mostly guys just figuring out what could be better. You can watch that video, but essentially they created wireframes, so it's not a design, just wireframes for now. It seems to me that it's a little bit out of scope, since they added some features which may or may not be too much for the directory itself. But essentially, I will talk to them hopefully tomorrow, quickly see if there is interest to continue ironing out or fleshing out the designs, and then trying to scope it on what we can realistically do with it. But yeah, you can rewatch the video. It's like 5 minutes presentation, so it's not much, and you can get a good sense of what they're where they are and how they are thinking. I think it's a good research done on their end and good ideas that we haven't considered, but we just have to scope it. And then yeah, I also found a developer that potentially can help us make this happen. New contributor who has been helping with the directory already. So maybe this can be something interesting and challenging for him as well. So maybe I can gather a team around, and then maybe we can provide feedback on their designs. But it's also something that we don't have to be very heavily involved in. We can just let these teams work autonomously, unless, we don't like what they designed.
Yeah, no, I'm taking a look at it right now as you talk. For some reason, I thought the other thing, I wish I would have just scrubbed through and finished all of it, because I thought there was still like another 20 minutes or something left on that, because I had seen, I guess, what sounds like most of it. Yeah, no, I think that there's some solid thinking here. I think that like from yeah, you're right that like that's what I was expecting, is like there's going to be a design or something a little bit more polished at the end of it. But I think obviously at this stage, it didn't make sense to do that. So where they're coming from makes a lot of sense. And I like how they're thinking about it from the perspective of a merchant and a customer. Yeah, whether things are out of scope or all that might be worth poking them and seeing what they're thinking and hearing some more of the reason or the rationale behind that. But I think the only thing when I look at it a little bit is it's more just like, how do we like it's very, what's the right way to put it? It's like you go to the directory and you're just met with text and category. Whereas like, I think with any of these kind of things, it becomes a challenge to not have some things out of scope, but it's almost like, why don't we put, a few up top, or, do something where it's like there's, we have the list of, new ones that have been added or whatever kind of thing. So it's like feedback like that, where I think that we could probably push a little bit of what's been done here, but I think that this is some really solid work. And yeah, if it makes sense to keep them autonomous and we just give feedback or share things, like that also works for me. I don't mind. But yeah, that had been on my list. So I will type up some feedback and thinking, even if it's just a question, like, why did you guys make this decision? And then like, or why would it potentially be a stupid idea to do X, Y, and Z thing? Like listing out other merchants or whatever kind of thing.
Yeah, that makes sense. So I'll talk to them, see if they're interested in continuing flashing out the designs, and then connecting them potentially with maybe they can join the UX UI channel to just present their work, their ideas, and we can take it from there.
Yeah, it'd be good to talk at least a bit with them before they get started, because I'd like to prevent an issue we have with the current directory, which also has been built or reworked very autonomously, and it's the only case where React is used. And I'd strongly argue for please, if you use a fancy framework, go for Vue.js, because that's what the rest of BTCPay uses, and we'll have a better time onboarding people. Yeah, if we basically use the same tools everywhere.
Yep. And it'd be nice too, even for the same for like the design styling and all that kind of stuff, where it's like, I think obviously we can make whatever they're, whether they wireframe and all that, we can style it up and make it that way. But yeah, if we're, we're leveraging the similar colors and themes and all that other kind of stuff, especially if it's like I don't know what else to call it. It's not a sponsored project, but like a affiliated thing, it'd be nice to definitely feel like it's part of the system of everything that we have right now as well. So that would be my only other ask, similar to what Dennis is saying, of like, yeah, let's use certain technical constraints. But no, I love that they did it, and that's awesome. I'm glad that they took up the initiative, and I hope that they want to continue with it, because that'd be a nice thing to have for sure. Oh, actually, another question that I had for you, Dennis, for the customizing the instance logos. I'm trying to think, like, is there, and you may have asked me this question in DMs, but for this, when it comes to how are we dealing with the ratio of all of these things? Because it's like, obviously you've shown a couple different ones from like, a 1-to-1 on Spiral, or like maybe a 2-to-1 with like the 21, or like the Human Rights Foundation. Are we just scaling the asset depending on the ratio that it has, or how are we handling that? Probably could look at the code, but
in general, it's pretty easy with those cases. It's mostly the one in the sidebar, then on the logged out pages and error pages, and in the latter two cases, the logo has its own line. So I just defined the height and maximum width, so it'll keep the ratio, but it'll mostly fit it with the height that's defined.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. All right, I just was curious if there was anything. So yeah, I can kind of see that now.
Yeah, I didn't want to constrain it like we have with the store logo. Yeah, and we also talked about whether or not we would need to constrain the store logo like that. And I still think there might be cases where we could do it the same way as the instance logo is doing it. Yeah, but other than that, I tried a few things like the Spiral logo, the HRF logo, and also the 21 logo, which is pretty wide. And most of these cases work pretty nicely. So I think we're good.
Yeah, because I was thinking about that. So I guess in this particular case, I guess if I merge with master, but like if you say, for example, with that kind of thing, would we be scrapping the the store icon for the dropdown?
No, so the instance logo and the store logo are two completely separate things. So the instance logo is more like something the admin can set for the instance, like if you define a custom theme, and the store keeps the settings for the store separately.
Okay, cool. That's what I was hoping, but I wasn't sure if this was in an attempt to do one over the other. All right, well then never mind. No more questions for me on any of that.
So it's not even a case of the instance is the default and the store can define another one on top of that. That's not the case. It's, yeah, as I said, two completely separate things.
That makes sense. So let's see. Pop, you said you had another thing in addition to the directory. Was there was something else that I remember you mentioned, but I'm forgetting
yes. Yes, the donation on the website. I would really like to roll that one out with the 1.7, because hopefully we can add notification to people mentioning that they can now support BTCPay Server as an individual, even as a company, and get 503, because like OpenSats is 503, so they can get taxes deducted, which I think is a very big deal for people in the US. And also people and companies can now donate to us through credit cards as well, and even like subscribe and donate every month. So I think those news should be shared. I don't think people are aware of it, but we constantly get asked, like, how can we help? How can we donate? And we just tell them, well, if you're an individual, you can just pick a developer, and then if they don't know developer, they usually ask me, okay, which developer? And then I said, oh, you can split it equally, and then they go through each and every instance. And yeah, it's chaotic even maintaining that list. So this really helps, because it will all end up in the foundation, and then it will be like equally redistributed amongst contributors. So just making sure that we communicate it properly, like, okay, here is, if you're like a big corporate entity wanting to donate directly to foundation and get benefits of like being featured and things like that, donate here. If you're an individual or US based company, or you want to donate with credit cards, with fiat, go through OpenSats, I guess. A wording would have to be probably something that I need to tinker about, because it has to be clear which route do you go to.
Yeah, I think the 2-column suggestion that you had made, I think, makes a lot of sense as a large entity or an individual, and then directing them through either the primary or secondary type of flow for those kind of things. I think we could probably keep it straightforward. We can just make the page look nicer and style it up. And Dennis was working on some of the web stuff. Yeah. So
I think Dennis was also right on that one, because he said, we are not really, we're about to redesign websites at some point, so let's not like invest heavy efforts into this, but let's make sure it's clear to people like where they need to go in case they want to donate. Just that, I guess, scoping it to that goal.
Yeah. FYI, I started already to work on the new version of the website, but for the existing one, I think we should spend half an hour and come up with a better solution than what we have right now, but not spend any more time on that.
Yeah, that's fair. We could, if since we're talking about it, if we want, we could devote some time in the next call to talking through some of that stuff, and I'll take a look as well. I told myself I was going to do that earlier this week, and I didn't get around to doing it. So I was hoping to be able to come to this call with something that was like, here's something that we could do, and we can just discuss all the ways, like you were talking about, Pop, that it would or wouldn't work, or why it might be confusing or whatever. But let's try to do that for next call. That way we can actually get something out, and even if we, if we ship it at the same time that we ship the newer web stuff, or we'll just do this as a separate as an aside to that, and then we'll get to the other web stuff later.
Yeah, we wouldn't even have to discuss it in the call. You can just come up with something we can discuss it real quick. I'll implement it.
That works for me.
We're good.
No, I'm perfectly fine. I'll drop it in Mattermost. That works. I just didn't know if people have deeper thoughts about that, but I tend to agree. I'm hoping it should be relatively straightforward.
Yeah, we can have deeper thoughts when we redesign the website.
Okay. But yeah, Pop, you're gonna have many thoughts on some of the website stuff. But I think that I know you saw some of the stuff in Riga, but I think you'll be happy with where we're going, and hopefully it'll simplify a lot of things, and like all the newer stuff that we're working on and pushing out, like we can easily update. And it's just like, hopefully we'll just be swapping assets or swapping some, animated asset, as opposed to kind of where we are now, where we haven't announced most new things. Because that's like overarching goal with all that is just trying to get to a place where we can, reflect what exists. And then if we have like a newer feature or a newer thing that people might get excited about, or a newer release or whatever, it should be something that we can easily incorporate. And or maybe if we ever get to that point where we really want to, like for like major releases or something like that, it could be a temporary section. But even then, I don't think that would probably be as necessary as just maintaining the views that we currently would have on the updated view, like checkout, invoices, dashboard, all that kind of stuff. I think we could easily replace it, and that would be fine. And then we'll just make announcements where we usually would. But yeah, I feel like that'll be a nice thing to do, and it'll, especially with all the stuff that we've been working on since like 1.3. I think people would appreciate seeing something new there. So yeah, Dennis and I are excited about that.
We'll redesign the website, and you will be happy.
I love the sound of that. So looking forward. I glanced at early mockups, which were already 20x to what we have now. So looking forward to what you boys come up with. Well, also on one note, I'm not sure if it has been said during the meeting already, since I was quite late, but the two of you and like four of you here on these meetings really are pushing BTCPay forward. Just by looking at the latest improvements regarding the checkout page and how you guys think about logos and how a certain feature that you implement ties up to all of the other features. So I think that sets a good example of how we should think about things in the future, not just stuffing features, but also like thinking how they correlate with each other and improving them gradually. Specifically adding feature as experimental opt-in at first, testing it out, and then rolling it in as a default if it works for users is really, really good idea. And just the process, how this was implemented and handled from the beginning to end was really impressive and gives a good example on how we should do things in the future.
Nice. That's great to hear.
Oh, cheers. Thank you. Yeah. No, I agree. We're getting better every day with all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I must say, doing something as opt-in and with feature toggles always increases the complexity. So I wouldn't want to keep that process for smaller things, but in this case, it totally makes sense. And yeah, it turned out good.
So I was referring to, I wasn't referring to all the features, just the features that are very sensitive in a way that, it touches a lot of things. It can potentially break things for people. So I think those toggles were very good idea.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think one of the things that's also, it's like even after this, it's like starting to think about what we want to try to tackle for 1.8 as well, of like, because we have quite a few things, and there are definitely things that Dennis and I have on our lists that we would like to get to, but I like the idea that we have like one core feature, but then we're figuring out ways of incorporating that and improving the various things that surround that core feature, where like, again, we have our list of things that we'd like to do, but that could be something, and then, the next 2 weeks to a month, we start planning for 1.8. So we have a clear idea of where we're headed for the next stuff. That's the only thing in my head, because there's so many other things that I could jump to as well, and like where the web stuff falls into that and all that. So we're not killing Dennis and expecting too much of his time, because there's a lot still for you to do.
Does this
I'm
mean
good.
that Dennis
I-
is having a Christmas celebration finally, or are we
No.
guessing Christmas?
No. Please don't go that far. I need something
Yeah.
to work on Christmas Eve.
Yeah, he's not going to see his family.
Yeah, please. No, I really enjoy doing all of that, and I'm grateful that there's still so much work to do. That also is very exciting and not just boring pixel pushing stuff.
Yeah, I'm just hyped to keep pushing some of the plugin stuff forward too, because that really in my mind, it's like there are various things, but that still feels like a really big area of things that I want to keep pushing on. But anyway, that's a conversation for another day. I guess that's everything. At least on my list. If anybody else has got some stuff to throw in, feel free. But I'll get these PRs reviewed, Dennis, that I'm tagged on. I've been a little bit behind on some of that, but I mean, for the most part, everything I'm seeing looks good. But I'll get in and just make sure that I can't break it. But otherwise, I think that's it. That's it for me.
Yeah, all right. Pav, maybe you have seen that I spent a good amount of time today coming up with a now hopefully final solution for please add or remove supporters because it was a pain doing that across all the different repositories, because every one of those repositories has a different markup for that, and it was always so much fiddling and, like I said, boring pixel pushing. And now I think I have a good solution for keeping that mostly dry and clean.
Awesome. I saw. I did not test it, but I will maybe after the call, and then we can merge it in.
Yeah, no hurries. I was just so lucky that
yeah,
that I finally
those
found
supporters. Yeah, those supporters section are pain to handle. So I'm glad that you managed to simplify it. Thank you for that.
I also have one very technical thing that's coming in via Telegram at the moment. There is a user that complains about our loopd version that we delivered in the last LND update. I think it's still an old one, at least looking at the Docker file. I guess that's Nicolas' expertise there. Am I right?
I mean, here we push beautiful pixels. So
I need to take a look, because I thought we have those other dependencies integrated in or via their Docker, and always use the most current version.
I can send you the link to the Docker file. It has a fixed version in it. And if I'm looking at the correct Docker file, that is, of course.
Yeah, I can take a look as well, and if it's just a simple upgrade, I can do that tomorrow.
Okay, perfect.
Cool. All right. Well, I mean, I think if that's everything, I'll let you guys get going. But yeah, as usual, it's always good to hear from everybody. And I'm looking forward. I think the next call will probably have quite a few more visual things to show. And hopefully have a lot of the checkout stuff ironed out, and hopefully some newer website stuff. So,
yeah.
Good work, everybody. Keep pushing. See ya around.
Same.
Everybody.
Bye. Enjoy the rest of your day. Till next time.
For too long, we've relied on trusted third parties to process digital payments. The world is changing, and so are your customers. As cash payments decrease, digital payments become the standard. But existing apps charge transaction fees and lack privacy. BTCPay is a Bitcoin payment platform. It gives control over your business back to you, helping people achieve financial freedom with donations, payments, and more. Help your family and onboard your friends. Use BTCPay to host multiple stores and become a payment platform of your own. While the world changes around you, stay in control of your finances. It's simple to use, censorship resistant, and completely free. This is more than a payment platform. It's transforming digital payments as fast as the world around us.